Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of The Stone Angel, a novel written by Margaret Laurence. The main characters of this novel are Hagar Shipley, Marvin Shipley, Doris Shipley, Brampton, who is known as Bram Shipley, John Shipley, Jason Curie, who is Hagar's father, Dan Curie, Matt Curie, Lottie Dresser, Arlene Simons, Mr. Troy, Murray F. Lees, Sandra Wong, and the minor characters are Aunt Doll, Charlotte Tappan, Telford Simons, Henry Pearl, Mr. Oatley, Jessica, who is known as Jess Shipley, Dr. Corby, Mrs. Jardine, Mrs. Daubernier, Mrs. Rayleigh, Stephen Shipley. And the story is said in a first person narrative, and the main character is Hagar, who breaks into a stream of consciousness. That is, she goes back to her younger ages very often, and now she is 90 years old, and this is because of her old age and illness. And the whole novel is divided into 10 chapters, and in each chapter we find a shift in the back and to the present. The present is in somewhere in 1960s, and the past is in Hagar's earlier age. Now Hagar Shipley is 90 years old. Before marriage she was Hagar Curie, born in Manawaka in Monteba in 1886. And as she is growing older, she finds herself thinking more of her past, which helps her to escape from the unhappy present situation. She is having her son Marvin and his wife Doris living with her in the house which she purchased many years ago. And she is suffering from gastrointestinal discomfort and arthritic stiffness plague, which makes her to suffer in each and every moment of her waking hours. And now she is paranoid because she comes to know that her son Marvin and daughter-in-law Doris are planning to send her to a nursing home for treatment. And this makes her to think about her past even more often. And first she thinks about her mother who died when she was born. And in her burial, there is an expensive stone angel with unseeing blank eyes, and that has guarded her family's plot in the Manawaka cemetery. And she was raised by her widower father, Jason Curie, who was a Scottish immigrant from a very prominent family of Highlanders. And here he came and he founded his own first general store in Manawaka, along with Hagar's two brothers, Matt and Dan. And Hagar cultivated a very good group of friends called Charlotte Tapper, Lottie Dresser, Telford Simons and Henry Pearl. But Hagar's brother Dan died at a teenage itself because of pneumonia. And it was during that time that Hagar's brother Matt requested Hagar to behave like her mother to comfort Dan on his deathbed. But Hagar refused to do so. And this Hagar's decision was repeated throughout her youthful life, because she did not want to give up to all the demands to behave like a traditional woman. And because of this itself, she took few decisions which made her to leave her family and come out forever. And one such thing is accepting the marriage proposal from Brampton Shipley, who was an older farmer and who lived on the outskirts of the town, and his coarse ways, and he had two grown-up children from his previous marriage. And he was also not well off because of his dubious finances. But according to Hagar, marrying Bramfred will make her to escape from her father's strict demands, and she could live her own life for the first time in her life. So she chose to marry him and she left her family. Now she comes back to the present, where she comes to know that an advertisement from a nursing home called Silver Threads was given in the newspaper, and seeing that, Hagar's worst fears are confirmed because Doris and Marvin are planning to send her there. And Hagar does not want to leave her home and the possessions which she had accumulated throughout her life. And as the days go by, Hagar becomes aware of the strain she is putting on Doris and Marvin, because she frequently falls down and she requires constant attention, and her stubborn temperament also gets on their nerves because she is not able to control her temperament. And Marvin and Doris suggest that Hagar go and meet the doctor so that she will get enough advice and how to live and maintain her life for the remaining days. Now she thinks about her past. Now after she married Bram, Hagar's brother Matt died, and her friends around the city began looking at her differently because she had abandoned the social world of Manavaka for Bram, and her only solace was a deep physical attraction to her new husband. Otherwise, his terrible behavior, his unclean ways, and his disregard for her feelings made their happy and unhappy one. And now, coming back to the present, Hagar goes and meets the doctor who takes a lot of tests and x-rays and confirms to Marvin and Doris that definitely she needs a professional care, and they do not share the results of the test with her because they don't want her to uh, hear all the whatever is the medical terms. But anyway, they insist that Silver Threads is a better place for her to live, and actually it was Marvin and Doris's idea that if Hagar comes and sees a nursing home, if she sees the facilities there, she will change her mind and willingly accept to stay there. But Hagar gets angry and panicked, and she insists to be taken home immediately as early as possible. And after coming back from the nursing home, Hagar continues to wet the bed, and she also starts very speaking closely to Marvin, Doris, and all to even to the strangers in public. And now Marvin makes a decision and tells Hagar definitely that she has to go to the nursing home because as the days are passing, she is becoming impossible to maintain. And Hagar thinks about her past now, where she bore two children, Marvin and John. And Hagar loved John better than Marvin from his birth, and she favored him more. And she found that John was very sensitive, and then Marvin, and he needed more special attention, affection, and special treatment. And even though John showed wild and rebellious behavior in school, like fighting with classmates and playing games of chicken in the railway tracks, Hagar could never see anything about her son wrong. She thought that he is perfect. However, Bram paid the boy no attention at all, and even after, when Marvin was at 17, went off to fight in the First World War, this continued there. And after an embarrassment incident in the town, which forced Hagar to see how much her marriage to Bram had changed her and alienated her from everyone else around her, she chose to pack up her most valuable things, particularly John, and leave. But Bram did not care that Hagar was leaving them, and this pained Hagar a lot. Now again, Hagar is afraid in the present, being sent to the nursing home, and she makes a plan to spoil Marvin and Doris's plan of admitting her in the nursing home. So when Doris leaves the home in the morning, Hagar takes one of her social security checks and runs away from there. She catches a bus to Shadow Point, which is a woody nature spot near the coastal area. And after reaching here, she is very tired because of her illness and old age, and she takes a shelter in an abandoned building and hides out because she does not want to be exposed or attacked by vagrants, and she is also very hungry, but all this she has to overcome to retain her independence. Now here in the past, after she left Bram, Hagar took John and found a job working as a housekeeper to a wealthy former smuggler named Mr. Oatley. And this old man took to Hagar. He liked her a lot, and Hagar also enjoyed having a room of her own in the big house. But John, however, did not want to be forced to live in someone else's house, and he became more secretive, and he had a lot of relationship with different girls, and he also was communicating with Bram through many letters, and all this he did without telling Hagar. And when the Great Depression hit the country, John and Hagar lost a large sum of money which they had invested, and which was actually needed for John to go to college. John now became even more resentful of Hagar, and he wanted to go back to his father, and therefore he chose to leave her. And after several years, John wrote to Hagar to tell her that Bram was dying, and Hagar rushed back there, and she nursed her husband in his final days. And only on coming back to home, she found that the house was in a despair situation because both Bram and John were over consuming wine. And John was also engaged in a reckless behavior. He talked coarsely just like his father, and he thought that his poverty was a badge of honor for him, and he was proud of his poverty. And unable to recognize either his son or a husband, it came as a relief to Hagar when Bram finally died. And though this loss of Bram really shattered John. And Hagar thinks about the present where now she is in Shadow Point, and there is only a little bit of provisions which she had purchased, and now she is walking through the woods, and because of her old age and tiredness she is not able to go back much, so she sits, takes rest, and again thinks about her past. Now, after Bram's death, John began an affair with Arlene Simmons, the daughter of Lottie Dresser and Telford Simmons, who are Hagar's childhood friends. Now, she knows about her son very well, and fearing her son's rejection and also Arlene's fall from grace because she does not want what happened to her to happen to Arlene, Hagar conspired with Lottie to send Arlene out to East to find work. Now, this caused a lot of pain to John, and though Hagar urged him to see that all she wanted was his happiness, John reacted in anger and began to spending more and more time driving through town drunk and making an embarrassment of himself. Now, in the present, Hagar takes shelter in an abandoned cannery, and as night falls, she hears a noise and fears of some stranger coming to rob her. And the man who enters into that building is also frightened of Hagar as she hears her from him, and he introduces himself as Murray F. Lees. And though Hagar first thinks that Marvin and Doris had sent this man Murray to bring her back to them, Murray insists that he has no connection to them at all. Drunk and alone, Murray offers to share some wine with Hagar, and the two of them talk about their lives, and they realize that they have both suffered the painful loss of their sons. Now, one night back in Manawaka, Henry Pearl came to the door to tell Hagar that there is been an accident. And actually what has happened is John was driving his truck across the Trestle Bridge with Arlen in tow, and he had to come face to face with an oncoming train and drove his car off the bridge. Arlen was killed on impact, but John was taken to the hospital. Hagar arrived just at the time when John was about to die, and he died because of internal injuries which were caused by the accident. But Hagar never wept for her boy, though now she has become unfeeling, unchangeable, and unseeing as the stone angel in the cemetery. Now in the present, the next morning, Hagar wakes up to find that Murray is gone. She feels ill, nauseous, and cold, and just as her thoughts begin to grow jumbled, Marvin, Murray, and Doris walk back into the cannery. And though Hagar initially resists the attempts to remove her, she later softens and allows them to take her into the car where they tell her the truth. Her x-rays have revealed a disease in her bowels, and rather than going to Silver Threads, she needs to go straight into a hospital. That is, she need not go to a nursing home, she has to be admitted in the hospital. And there she is admitted in a public ward in a local hospital, and Hagar struggles both against the care of the nurses which is offered to her and also the friendship of her fellow patients. And after some time, she is moved to a semi-private room, and she slowly befriends her roommate Sandra Wong, a young girl admitted for appendicitis, and begins to accept that her own death is imminent. And Hagar receives visits from Doris and Minister Mr. Torrey, as well as Marvin and Doris's son Stephen. As his condition becomes worse and worse, she struggles to open herself up to the kindness those around her are showing to her, in spite of all the trouble she puts them through. Later on, she apologizes to both Doris and Marvin for her behavior and tells Marvin that he was always a better son to her than John. Hagar's pain worsens, and she spends more and more time floating into the cocoon of her pain, and medicines are offered to her, and slowly she approaches a state of peace and ease. However, when a nurse attempts to help Hagar drink from a glass of water, Hagar becomes stubborn again and insists on holding the glass herself, and she drinks a glass of water, and her train of thoughts cuts out, and this leaves the reader to imagine what is next. This is a beautiful novel written by her. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box. Like the video, share with your friends, and if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.